Welcome to another Airbrush Asylum video. This is part 2 of the sea turtle tutorial. If you haven't already, go check out part 1. Let's get back into this artwork and I'm going to show you how I added more detail throughout this part. So starting off with some burnt sienna. This is a Createx illustration color. I'm just going to start to add a bit of texturing as well as freehand airbrushing through the paper templates that I made. And I'm going to start to add that burnt sienna onto some of the shell areas as well, just to start to get the colour a bit more accurate to my reference. So you can see I'm building that texture and starting to really draw in some more detail. So following my reference closely. Up nice and close with the airbrush, pulling back less on the trigger to get those sharper, more defined lines, and then further away to get the softer blends. If this is the first time watching one of my videos, then welcome. For all our regular viewers, welcome back. I do hope that you're enjoying this tutorial so far, and if you are and you're new to this channel, by all means feel free to hit subscribe, tap on that bell icon, and that will notify you every time I put out new content. And if you feel that this could help someone else with their airbrushing, by all means share it out and let's build this airbrushing community together. The airbrush that I'm using in this tutorial series is the GSI Krios PS.770. Spray Gunner were nice enough to send me one to try out. This is the first artwork that I've actually completed with this airbrush, so great to use. I'll pop a few links in the description to products used in this video, so be sure to check them out if you want any more info or you wish to purchase. Okay, so now that I'm done with the burnt sienna, I am moving on to Sepia Brown. This is Trident airbrush paint. I have reduced this particular colour, and all the paints that I use, I do use reducer to thin them out. You can thin them to your liking. I recommend to my students generally to start with a 1:1 ratio. I generally work off about 30% paint and 70% reducer, and dropping my air pressure down to about 18 to 20 psi. So you see, just trying to get some detailing happening now with this Sepia Brown. So up nice and close to get a real defined sharp edge. And then I'm working away from that, blending it in. Being careful not to overdo it. I'm focusing predominantly on all the darker areas to start with. And remember, go less and you can always add more. And if you find this color a little bit daunting, you know, it's a fair contrast from the previous tones, then by all means use a bit of transparent base, mix that up with your reducer first, and then just add drops of brown into that mix, and that's going to give you a sepia brown color, but a lot more transparent. it'll allow you a little bit more control, and you can like gradually build your layers rather than going from a sort of lighter tone to a virtually, nearly the darkest tone on this artwork. So I will go a little bit darker, but sepia is quite dark for what I want. And I'm just using a freehand shield here to get some of those edges in. So just to get a real crisp edge. The freehand shields that I'm using at the moment are the 4 templates that are part of my FireTools template set, available throughout Australia through our website airbrushasylum.com.au. Or if you're located outside of Australia and you want to grab yourself a set of these templates, then visit airshotstencils.com and they can hook you up. I'll put some links to both of those in the description below as well to make it easier for everyone to find out more about this particular product. So you can really notice now by adding that sepia, it's starting to really shape the turtle. I'm getting in a lot of the details and building my underlying texture. I'm still going relatively careful with this colour, meaning that I'm not just smashing it on, carefully following my reference and double checking, triple checking if need be to make sure that I don't put this dark colour in the wrong position. And you'll also notice how it blends nicely over the top of that blue, just to dirty that blue up a little bit and make it a bit more accurate. So sometimes using a really bright colour, I always knock it back with another tone later on. So by having a brighter base, it allows you to then knock it back, and you can still get a nice bright colour, but with that, that sort of shading on top of it. So adding more detail into the shell, as you can see here. So up nice and close to get those shadows that divide the bits of shell. And more texturing as well. Slowly building it up. So working relatively close. Remember, this canvas is only 250 by 250 mil, so 25 by 25 centimeters. Just trying to cram in as much detail as possible. But you'll notice that even though I'm using that sepia and virtually covering a lot of the area, I'm still allowing that burnt sienna to shine through. I don't want to totally eliminate everything that I've done, but that really is a great base as a tone, just to give the colouring, to get that a bit more accurate to what the sea turtle is. Again, if you're not confident doing a lot of this sort of stuff freehand, you could go back using a freehand texture template, and that might make it a bit easier for you to get these sort of textures. You have to experiment a little to simulate what you're looking for, and just follow your reference in order to figure that out. If you need to have a practice, like I always recommend doing a little sample piece, get a bit of copy paper or anything you've got lying around, do a bit of a sample, a test with the color and the template, even lift the template and move it around. That'll give you different effects, and just try and simulate what it is you're looking at. Just remember, when you're looking at a reference, you just need to paint what you see. So a lot of people, they look at a reference and they start making things up because your eye's playing tricks on you. If you paint what you see, you can't go wrong. And if you're struggling, if your eye is starting to play tricks on you, I recommend even flipping your canvas upside down and the reference upside down, and then you're forced to just look at the shapes and shadows rather than looking at the whole image, as a complete, in this case, sea turtle. So I'm aware that a lot of this looks very, very tedious, but Adding in all the little subtleties and all those fine details and textures is what makes the artwork. So don't cut corners. Just even if you have to spread the artwork out when you work on it over a few nights, whatever it takes, just come back to it and really spend the time and get everything in its place, and it's just going to give you a much better end result. Okay, so I'm switching to a transparent blue now. So this is just the regular blue from Trident mixed with transparent base. So again, like I said earlier, you mix the transparent base with your reducer to your liking first, essentially making a colorless binder, and then add a few drops of blue to that. The colors are heavily pigmented, so they will tint the base quite quickly, and in a result you're going to get the blue that you see here, or something very similar, and you can adjust its opacity by the amount of blue that you add to your base mix. And what I'm doing with this tone is adding further detailing around the turtle's eye, blending some of those blue sections on the head, so just blending them back out, and adding more and more texture as well. So you'll notice I'm dusting that blue, the same transparent blue mix, over certain areas of the turtle, on bits of the shell and just underneath the shell where you can see it going here, as well as just a little bit on underneath the mouth of the turtle there. And it's also tinting, as you can notice, with the yellow overspray underneath it, so you're getting a bit of a variety of a colour from a blue to a greeny blue, which is a really nice blend. So you can use that to your advantage. The colours will mix on the surface, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now that I'm happy with the blue, I am going to do a transparent green. Mix that up, and I'm going to start adding that green to really make those areas pop. So you'll also notice that I'm not using any templates for this. I'm just sort of dusting the green where I want it, being careful to control the overspray. If you're not confident doing it freehand, by all means go get the negative mask from the paper template, and you can utilize that to control your overspray. Okay, so I want to start adding some real bright white highlights now. I'm using a light sand, so white mixed with the sand color from Trident Airbrush paint. And this time, because I am brushing it on, I haven't mixed it with any reducer, so I'm just using the paint mixed together as it is, and I'm using that fine art brush to begin to add my highlights to certain sections of the artwork. And because I'm applying it with the brush, I'm starting to get that real contrast that I want, the softness from the airbrushing and the harshness from the brush, so it's going to give us a nice effect. And then I'm going to come back in with some more airbrushing later on, but at least this will start to really define some of these highlights and really begin to shape the sea turtle. So just finishing up with a few more brush highlights, and that will pretty much wrap up part 2 of this tutorial series. Be sure to check out part 3 to see how I finish off this particular artwork. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.